Welcome back to Scholar IAS Current Affair classes, students. You all know the objective of this current affair class is to bring you the important articles of the day that would help you in your UPSC civil service preparation. So without any delay, let's see the important articles. So the first article is on governor and his powers in summoning a session, assembly session. Okay, so this is related to GS2 paper polity session, and this is in news because of certain recent developments in Kerala. Okay, what has happened is in Kerala, governor has turned down the request from the cabinet, Kerala's cabinet, to convene a special session of States Assembly. Okay, so this is actually what has happened. And for your understanding, students, if you have a good fundamentals, that if you're strong in your fundamentals, then this article is nothing but an additional pointers on that. So this is actually dealing with the constitutional provisions related to governor and his powers. If you have already gone through Lakshmikant, then this article would brush up your basics. So now let's get into the article. So the first question is, now we need to understand who can summon a session. Okay, who can summon a session in assembly basically. So when we talk about assembly, it deals with the state legislature. So according to article 174, governor has the power to summon the house. If it is unicameral, it is just the assembly. If it is a bicameral legislature, then the governor can summon both the legislature as well as the council, the assembly and the council, whenever he feels that it is time to have a meeting of these two houses. And it also fixed the responsibility on the governor to ensure that the house is summoned at least once in every 6 months. This is an important point for prelims students. You would have come across this point in Lakshmikant itself. Just I am reiterating it here. And the next thing is, though governor has the power to summon the assembly, he cannot do it on his own discretion, because he is required, according to article 163, the governor is required to act on the aid and advice of the cabinet. We know this. Similar to how president acts on based on the aid and advice of the cabinet of the central government, same way at state level the governor also acts on the aid and advice of the cabinet. So this article, because of this article, the article 174, even though rests the power on the governor, he has to act, he has to take the aid and advice of the cabinet in summoning the house, and he cannot use his discretionary power in summoning the house. But there is a special status where governor can actually use his discretion. Okay, and when we say discretion, specifically in summoning the house. So when is that? So whenever the cabinet actually doesn't enjoy the majority. So what does that mean? If, let's say, the chief minister appears to have lost a majority in the state legislature, the cabinet also loses its majority. That is what it means. And if also no confidence motion has been passed against the chief minister, or at least proposed, you don't even have to pass, because once it is passed, the chief minister no longer holds the office. So if no confidence motion is proposed in the legislature and it is pending, then also the governor can act on his discretion, and he doesn't have to go by aid and advice of the cabinet. But there is one aspect to it, where if any action is taken by the governor using his discretionary power, then such actions can be challenged in court. Okay, so this is what the provision is about, and where he can actually act on his discretion. So this being said, now let's try to understand how in previous instances, the courts have reacted to these kind of issues. In 2016, in Arunachal Pradesh, when a similar issue happened, the Supreme Court held that the governor cannot refuse the request of the cabinet. If the cabinet requests for a session, then the governor is expected to convene a session. He is supposed to summon the house. And that too, when this cabinet is enjoying a majority in the house, then he can never deny it. And also it observed that, the Supreme Court observed that the power to summon the house is just a function. Okay, students, this is very important. It will be very useful in your answer writing. Make a note of this. So the Supreme Court held that the summoning power is just a function of the governor and not an exclusive power that is enjoyed by the governor. So as a function, he works on this function based on the aid and advice of the cabinet. That's what the Supreme Court conveys. And in addition to Supreme Court, even this Sarkaria Commission, they recommended making the advice of the cabinet binding on the governor. So there is some sort of confusion in current approach of aid and advice, how much it is binding on the governor. So Sarkaria Commission said that if until the government loses majority in the house, until the proposal, the no confidence motion is passed against the chief minister and the government, the governor is expected to abide by the aid and advice of the cabinet. This was recommended by the Sarkaria Commission. So everything points to the fact that the governor cannot act discretionary on many instances. So by now you would have understand what the answer is going to be for this question. So the question is that what happens if government insists on holding a session? So right now we saw that Kerala government has requested the governor to hold a special session and it has been denied. But what if the government again, the cabinet again insists on the governor to hold a session? So you have seen that what the Supreme Court observations has been, what the recommendations of the Sarkaria Commission has been, and how much of governor's discretionary power is applicable. So that is what this point also says. Governor's power is limited, okay, and there are also no legal ground to deny a request, because when there is a majority and when the government enjoys that majority, then it's not possible for the governor to actually exercise his discretionary power in this instance. And also the political nature of the office of governor, okay, it has been clearly specified in many courts, which says that it acts as a executive that works basically on the aid and advice and nothing more than that. Okay, that is what the position of governor is. It has been stressed in many court judgments. And also the checks and balance that has been put in place by the constitution limits the discretionary power of the governor. So with this all in case, basically the article says that the discretionary power of governor in summoning a house is very limited, and that too if the cabinet enjoys the majority, then it is not possible for the governor to deny any request raised by the cabinet for summoning a house. So this is all about this article, students. So make sure you make a note of all the important points, and this is all, it's going back to the basics, so you have to be strong in your fundamentals. Only then you would be getting a hold of this article. Okay, so let's move on to the next article. The second article is on prisoner rights. This is also related to your GS2 paper. It can come under social justice and governance topics. Okay, so what is the news? So the Bombay High Court has actually highlighted the need for conducting workshop for prison staff. For what? To sensitize them about the rights of under trials and prisoners. Okay, so we know that the prison staff, the prison personnel are not sensitive towards the rights of the under trials and prisoners, and many occasions the prisoners and under trials are not treated the way that they should be treated. So this is what this article is about. Now let's see the role of personnel, that is prison personnel. So they are not effective in dealing with cases of violation of prisoner rights. So in many instances the rights of prisoners are violated for various reasons, and the officials within the prison are not effective in ensuring that these rights are enjoyed by them. So why it is? The first reason is that the ground level staff, though they are not officers, the ground level staff doesn't have the power to make operational decisions. Okay, and secondly, the officials who actually have the power to take decisions doesn't want to get involved in it, just because they want to avoid any trouble by getting into this aspect of prisoner rights. And also when the prisoners are political prisoners, then they definitely, the officials try to disregard any such violations, because they don't want to get into trouble and they turn a blind eye towards such issues. Now, this being said, now let's understand what the legal position is. The Model Prison Manual 2016, okay, this was prepared by Bureau of Police Research and Development. They themselves have said that they have provided elaborate provisions regarding the care, treatment, rehabilitation of prisoners. So this particular manual, Model Prison Manual 2016 itself says how the prisoners should be handled inside the prison. Even the courts, so both Supreme Court and High Court, they have reiterated that the prisoners should enjoy all the basic human rights. This has been stated in many judgments in several instances. Okay. And in addition to this, even the under trials, the courts observe that the under trials have all rights except those that are restricted by they being inside the prison. So under trials are different from the prisoners because their cases are still going on in the courts. Okay, and they have all the rights except because of certain rights are restricted, just they are inside the prison. Except that, everything they should be able to exercise all the other rights. That's what the courts observe. But what is the ground reality? So around 70% are under trials. So out of 70% of people inside the prison, they are under trials, and in that more than 75% come from marginalized section. So what does this mean? These people, these under trials, most of these under trials doesn't have knowledge about the law itself, because when people come from marginal section, their knowledge about the law is restricted and they have little recourse to legal aid because of financial restrictions as well as support to them, okay, legal support to them. And there are also infrastructural issues, okay, because why there are 70% of under trials is because the courts doesn't have the capacity to deal with such volume of cases. So it is also because of infrastructure, as also because of lack of judges. There are the vacancies that are not filled yet in the judges office are still high. So what happens, it also impacts the number of cases that are remaining unresolved. It is also observed that many prisons are overcrowded, and that too almost they have prisoners 3 times more than their capacity of the prison's capacity to hold. So when such number of when such prisons are overcrowded, it is difficult to even ensure the basic rights to these prisoners. Forget about any other right, the basic right to exist itself is restricted. And as per a report, that is India Justice Report 2019, in this report states that on an average it takes 3 years for a case to get over in a high court, and it takes 6 years in a subordinate court. Okay, so now we can see why there is huge the prisons are overcrowded by under trials. And also the under trial review committees mandated by the Supreme Court. There is a Supreme Court has mandated for a committee to review the cases of under trials itself, and these committees are also not functioning properly. So this increases the number of under trials being put into the prisons. So this is what the issue is about, and make a note of all the important points. Okay, students, next move on to the next article. We understand the issue that is associated with the overcrowding of prisons, as well as the impact, its impact on rights of the prisoners and under trials. So the basic issue around it is the understanding of the way how prisons has to work. Prisons should be places for reformation and rehabilitation. Okay, right now, because of this overcrowding, as well as the perception of the society, as well as the officials, people in power, their perception towards prison is it's basically neglecting, and the prisons act as a imprisonment centers for poor and the marginalized, because these are the people who are not able to even go for higher hearings, I mean hearings in the higher courts. So their ability to get proper legal aid is restricted, and the prisons turn into a imprisonment center for these poor and marginalized, and not as a reform and rehabilitation center. And also, when under trials increase, that is the prolongation of criminal cases happens, it basically deprives the person of his rights. Okay, and it is not ethical as well. So what happens is there is a forced incarceration, either intentionally or non-intentionally. This forced incarceration happens, and that too specifically the vulnerable sections get affected the most. So these aspects, the perception towards the functioning of prison has to change, and also it has to be supported by the effective judicial system, whereby the cases are dealt and justice is delivered at a faster pace. Okay, unless then the overcrowded prisons cannot ensure rights to the prisoners. So this is all about the prisoner rights article, students. We have come to the end of the session, students. Hope you all like the class. For more videos, subscribe to our channel, visit our platform, and till next class, happy learning. See you. Bye bye.